Welcome to a play-by-play review. I'm your host Henry, now with the correct audio, unlike my previous episode where I forgot to switch the microphone over. But we are here now with the correct microphone settings, and we're wrapping up the NFL divisional recaps right in time for the NFL draft. This is draft eve, less than 12 hours actually at this point. Or no, less than 24 hours. Not quite 12 hours. It's basically 11:30 at night on Wednesday. The 22nd draft is at 8 p.m. on Thursday. So about like 16 hours roughly, maybe a little bit more, to night one of the NFL draft, and most likely Fernando Mendoza going number one overall to the Raiders, I would assume. That seems to be the consensus at the moment. But speaking of the Raiders, we'll be going over them in a little bit, though we'll start off with the Broncos here. So yeah, this is the AFC West, wrapping up this 8-part series of, summarizing the results for each team in their division for the 2025 NFL season / 2026. As I have been doing for a little while now. So we're rolling right in here. Basically, I think most of the trades involving players, big ones, are over. There's actually, to go over a couple things that are not just related to the AFC West, but to the NFL as a whole. Just a couple of things like big news recently. So Will Anderson Jr., the superstar defensive end for the Houston Texans, got a 3-year, $150 million extension. Got paid a ton of money. I think he's now like the highest, in terms of like average salary, he's now the highest non-quarterback paid player. I think he eclipsed Micah Parsons there. It's a lot of money, but also kind of deserved because Will Anderson's really good. Other contract news, Jacoby Brissett for the Cardinals, who's in line to be their starting quarterback at the moment, is now actually holding out on his contract because I think he signed a 2-year deal. You can actually probably go back and watch my or listen to my NFC West, because I'm pretty sure Jacoby Brissett signed back at the start of last season, but I'm pretty sure it was a 2-year deal. This is now the second of 2 years, and he's trying to get basically just more money, I'm pretty sure, to like be in more line with other starting quarterbacks rather than get paid backup money. So that's something to watch there, because the Cardinals never seem to have anything go right for them. And then also the big one, the big trade that happened back on Saturday was Dexter Lawrence, the superstar nose tackle for the New York Giants, former first-round pick back in 2019, was traded to the Cincinnati Bengals for the 10th overall pick in this coming draft. So that gives the Giants the 5th and 10th pick in this draft, and the Bengals a huge boost to their defense. And I believe they also gave an extension to Dexter Lawrence as well. So that is, I like that move for both teams. Since the Bengals, like, pick 10 is obviously really nice, but they've been really bad at drafting defensive players over the past couple of years. I mean, Shamar Stewart did very little in his rookie season. Miles Murphy had a couple of good games this past season, but outside of that, not really good. Then also, I think it's, I want to say it was Lewis Cine. Oh, no, it was Dax Hill. Never mind, Lewis Cine was Vikings. But yeah, Dax Hill, who has also been very mediocre. It's been just, they have not been able to find good talent in the draft defensively in the first round as of late. So for the pick 10, just to briefly touch on the draft, a lot of the top guys, like the top 2 linebackers in Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles out of Ohio State, the top 2 defensive ends, so David Bailey and Reuben Bain out of Texas Tech and Miami, and then the defensive backs, so Mansour Delane out of LSU, and then Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. There's a good chance most, if not all of them, go by pick 10. Since all those guys are kind of like top 10 picks from what most people are saying. It really depends on who you ask where those guys are going to go. Like some of them might fall later, but essentially a lot of times when I was seeing like the mock drafts before the trade, a lot of them were going, if Caleb Downs were to fall, a lot of people were having Caleb Downs go to the Bengals there at pick 10 at safety. But obviously now that's not going to happen. So the Bengals were just kind of on the outside looking into like some of the really top level players on the defensive side of the ball at pick 10. And now they don't have to worry about that. They just get a proven really, really good defender. Even if Dexter Lawrence didn't have the greatest season this past season, I think he was dealing with injuries a little bit. And also the Giants defense was not the best. I mean, obviously he's not going to have very good defense either in the Bengals, but I like this move for the Bengals because it gets them a proven guy on the defensive line that they have around for another couple of years. Obviously, the question is like they probably should have just paid Trey Hendrickson, but no one ever accused the Bengals of being smart. But in this moment right now, I like that for the Bengals, and for the Giants, I also like that because that Dexter Lawrence was clearly a bit disgruntled and didn't really want to play for the Giants anymore. And either that or they had to pay him a huge amount of money, which they probably didn't want to. So instead, they trade him away, flip him for the 10th overall pick. So most likely they're going to end up with either one of the top defenders and one of the top defensive players, one of the top offensive players, maybe, both offense but maybe both offense, maybe both defense, who knows? I've seen a lot of Sonny Styles and then Jordan Tyson, or Jeremiah Love and Jordan Tyson. I've seen a lot of people mocking Jordan Tyson at pick 10 to the Giants, essentially. So that will be answered in less than 24 hours. You can actually tune in to the draft through my channel. I'm going to be streaming the draft there. I'll have probably ESPN or NFL.com's website for the draft tracker that will be significantly ahead of my TV broadcast because Xfinity has a stream delay on all of its channels, which is kind of annoying, all of its live events. But yeah, I'll be streaming the first round of the NFL draft on my YouTube channel. It is Henry the Host. It is all one word. And you can also find this podcast on there. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, as you probably can tell. I'm really excited. And then also one final fun fact before I can actually get onto the episode here. I was actually on a plane coming back from Boston, funnily enough, when that trade happened. I was with my friend Danica, who was actually on this podcast way back in September for that Nintendo Direct episode that we did together. We were coming back. We were going up to see a friend up in Boston for the day. And we're on the plane, and she had I guess she's a Southwest member or whatever. She had the in-flight Wi-Fi and whatnot, and we were looking at we were yapping the whole time pretty much for the hour plus flight it was. But we got on topic of this year's draft, talking about because I'm Commanders fan. He's trying to figure out who the Commanders are going to go with at 7, and then I'm and because she's a Ravens fan, it's the Browns picking 6 there, they're probably going to go someone there, and the Bengals, they're pick 10, they're probably going to go something. She was wondering about that, and I'm like, wait a minute, why is the Giants there at 10? that doesn't look right. I thought for a moment it was a mock draft that someone did, but then we're wait a minute, this is actually ESPN. Did something happen? And then we checked and saw that, and it was just she was not happy because, she's a Ravens fan. Now she has to, her team has to play Dexter Lawrence twice a season. And I mean, I was kind of happy because Dexter Lawrence was really good, and getting him out of the division is really nice. But also the Giants getting 2 top 10 picks is not the best either. But considering last time they did that back in 2023, I think is what it was. Whatever the draft that they picked, I'm pretty sure it's 2023. They picked Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal at picks 5 and 7. That might have actually been 2022. But yeah, that did not work out for them there. I'm pretty sure that was 2022. Who did the Giants pick in 2023 in the first round? I don't remember that there. Because obviously 2024 was Malik Neighbors. 2025 was Jackson Dart and someone else. Abdul Carter, that's who it was. I'm blanking on who they picked in 2023. But I will look that up after this episode because I have rambled on about other football news for 9 minutes now. So it is time to go to the Denver Broncos, who had quite the season. So going into the offseason, in 2025 to be specific, they were coming off of a playoff appearance. They were 10-7 under Bo Nix's rookie season, and then got blown out in the wild card by the Buffalo Bills. So they went and beefed up their defense considerably, mainly with 2 signings and Talanoa Hufanga. Well, mainly Talanoa Hufanga. That was a really good signing there for the Broncos. Bring him in over from the 49ers at 3 years, $39 million. They also brought over Dre Greenlaw at 3 years, $31.5 million. Though unfortunately, Greenlaw started the season injured, and then they actually have released him after this, I guess because he just didn't perform up to expectations. It was a little surprising to see him get released. I think he's now back with the 49ers. But I know Greenlaw didn't play, super spectacular, but it was just a little surprising there to see that. They also brought over Evan Engram at tight end, which looked like a really good signing on paper, but I feel like he didn't do much this season, which is a little surprising because the Broncos had a glaring hole at tight end, and Evan Engram had some really nice seasons in Jacksonville. Brought him over on a 2-year, $23 million deal, but it just, I don't know, it was a little strange that he just like didn't seem all that involved. Because I had him on, I picked him up late on my fantasy team, I remember, and he was like, just didn't get anything early on in the season. I don't think he did much after that either. It was, I don't know, it was a little strange. Let me actually just, yeah, just not much production there, which I don't know. Anyway, they also, one of the other ones, like an underrated signing they had was re-signing linebacker Justin Stranad on a 1-year, $2.787500. It's like, why is that so specific? Like 1 year, basically $3 million deal. I know he had a pretty solid season there for Denver. On a pretty low-key deal. Another low-key deal they had was bringing over J.K. Dobbins at running back over from the Chargers. He had a nice season there for the Broncos, though. I think he suffered an injury late in the season, if I remember correctly. It actually wasn't like super late. Yeah, he only played in 10 games. But when he was healthy, he was good. I think it was like I don't remember if it was a torn ACL, but it was some kind of serious injury down the line that took him out for the back half of the season. But yeah, the first half, it was like both him. It was strange because they let go of Javonte Williams, who had been there, I think, a second-round pick a couple of years ago, and he went to the Cowboys and played very well for the Cowboys. And Broncos were all like all the Broncos fans are like, oh, come on, man, why is Javonte doing that now? But then their turnaround is like, oh, okay, J.K. Dobbins is basically doing the same thing here. Cool. Anyway, those are like the big ones there. In terms of losses, that is not who it was. They lost. Didn't lose much. They lost Zach Wilson because I always forget that Zach Wilson was on the Broncos for a hot minute. Javonte Williams was like probably one of the bigger production-wise ones. But again, they kind of replaced him with J.K. Dobbins, and then also the running back they took in the second round, R.J. Harvey. They also lost Cody Barton at linebacker to the Titans on a 3-year, $21 million deal. And I think he played pretty well for the Titans. I know he played pretty well for the Broncos as well. He was on Washington back in, I think, 2022. Maybe it was 23, and he was awful there. So it was like, as a Washington fan, it was a little frustrating seeing him be good outside of Washington, but that's just kind of how it's been going for a little while. But anyway, yeah, that was that. I don't think there were too many other big ones that they lost. So in terms of the draft, a lot of, okay. And in terms of the draft, they had the 20th overall pick. They also had a couple other second round picks that they flip-flopped around. What was this trade? Second, 51st, a third, and a fourth, and a sixth to the Carolina Panthers in exchange for a second round pick, third round selection, fourth round selection, and a seventh. Okay, so it was like a lot of shifting around picks there for the Broncos and the Panthers. And then they flipped that second round pick over to the Lions, and got them an extra fourth rounder there. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing there. I didn't realize there was this much. It's funny that they only wound up ending with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They still only wound up with 7 picks in the draft in 2025. They also traded away they got back a 4th round pick in 2026. So I guess in this coming draft, and then a 7th round pick in 2027. This was over in August, actually, for Devon Bailey. So they traded away Devon Bailey to the Saints, wide receiver there, for a couple picks in next 2 drafts, which is a very nice trade for the Broncos because Bailey did nothing for the Saints so far this back in 2025. But in the 2025 draft for the Broncos, they picked cornerback Jahdae Barron at, again, pick 20 out of Texas, who I think was injured for a decent bit of the season and didn't quite play up to expectations, I feel like, but he's still young. It was like, when it was made, it was like, oh man, this is going to be the best like cornerback duo in the league, pairing him up with Pat Surtain. But it was like, I felt like he was solid, but maybe not quite as expected. Now, let's see how many he played. Where is he on here? Did he have an interception? Is he even listed on here? Where is Jade Barron? I don't. Oh, there he is. He played in. I know he did play in all 17 games. Only started 5 of them. So I think it was just one. Wasn't rotated in the starting lineup as a whole. Because I know they also have Riley Moss and he was there, and I feel like someone else. Anyway, moving on. So they selected, back to the draft. They selected R.J. Harvey out of UCF at running back in the second round. They also selected wide receiver Pat Bryant from Illinois in the third. That was a nice pick. He had a nice rookie season there. Then Savion Jones, LSU defensive end, also in the third. And then a couple of guys as well. Nothing too much there. But yeah, RJ Harvey was nice. There was like a lot of rookie running back. This draft as a whole was really big with rookie running backs. And RJ Harvey was one of the better ones, I think. He didn't have a super spectacular season, but he had a solid one, especially for a rookie running back. He had a nice solid one there. And again, I like going through the Wikipedia summaries for the teams just because it's presented well and easy to scroll through. They're always in different formats for how they want to list things. I don't get it. I know they also had a lot of change in terms of assistant coaching, and a lot of coaches and managerial roles were filled in and stuff. They had a lot of change in here and there, but I think in turn, head coach, it was still Sean Payton. General manager, it was still George Patton, who's been the general manager since 2021. Davis Webb was the new offensive coordinator, so former quarterback, played for the Giants most recently in 2022, then has been on the Broncos coaching staff ever since. He's now, I guess he was, oh no, never mind. He was it lists him as the offensive coordinator. I think he took over play calling duties or something, maybe halfway through. And then Vance Joseph has been the defensive coordinator since 2023. Former head coach of the Broncos, actually, from 2017 to 2018, funnily enough. And so moving on to the season, because I'm gonna just speed through this, because a lot of these, it's I've recapped all of these games except save for the divisional matchups between these teams. All the other ones have been covered. So I'm going to very much speed through these so this episode doesn't take super long. Broncos go 3-0 in the playoffs. They beat the 49ers, Cardinals, and Saints. Week 1 against the Titans, they win 20-12. Week 2 against the Colts, they lose 29-28. This was on the leverage penalty on the game. Well, I think it was the Colts missed the game-winning field goal, but there was a leverage penalty called on the Broncos that advanced the Colts and allowed them to re-kick, where they would kick the game-winning field goal there. Week 3 against the Chargers was a 23-20 loss for the Broncos. And that one was Chargers scoring 10 in the fourth to come back and win. Or maybe it was a comeback, I don't know. But then the Broncos just kept on winning after that. They beat the Bengals 28-3. I think by this time it was Jake Browning starting, and he did not do well. They actually beat the Eagles 21-17. This was kind of the first cracks, it felt like, for the Eagles, showing where they weren't quite the same team. And this was also showing that the Broncos defense was very good. Week 4 against the Jets was in Tottenham, and this was a 13-11 victory. So your typical over the pond came there, because it's feels like every time there's a England game, it's just never interesting whatsoever. Week 7 against the Giants was a 33-32 victory. This is the one where the Giants gave up 33 points in the fourth quarter. All 33 points that the Broncos scored, they scored in that fourth quarter. That was crazy. The Broncos then just beat the crap out of the Cowboys 44-24 in week 8. Then played a close one against the Houston Texans and winning that one as well, 18-15 in week 9. So that was at that point, I guess, a 6 game winning streak at this point. They would go on or continue their winning streak, beating the Raiders 10-7 in week 10 at home. And this was, I do not remember this game at all. They wore their throwback uniforms in this. That was cool. I guess Troy Franklin got the touchdown pass there. I do not remember that game at all. To be fair, it's been months at this point, 5 months since some of these games have happened. So, it's, my memory is not quite as good as it was when I started these recaps back in February, maybe. I think I probably did start these back in February. Yeah, I think I must have started like the week after the Super Bowl ended, probably with with the NFC East. So yeah, it's been a minute, to say the least. Week 12 was actually, I skipped ahead. Week 11 they played the Chiefs, winning 22-19. I don't think this was the one where Mahomes tore his ACL. That might have been the week after. We'll figure it out after I go over the Broncos, since I'm going to go to the Chiefs next. But I think that was the next week. Week 12 was their bye. Week 13 was the overtime win against the Commanders, which that game was very fun. That was a Dre Greenlaw. I think it was Dre Greenlaw, or it might have been Nick Benito, who batted the 2-point conversion pass that Mariota was throwing. That was just a really fun game. I really enjoyed that game. Week 14 was against the Raiders again. They won 24-17. Week 15 against the Packers was a 34-26 win. I think that was one where I think that was when Micah Parsons got injured, like tore his ACL. So that was like the Packers just dying on the field there. Week 16. So after that, basically 10, actually, wait, no, that was more than 10. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 game win streak. They would have their win streak snapped there against the Jaguars. And this is when I was really high on the Jaguars, because they won 34-20 there. And the Jaguars looked really good. The Broncos definitely was like, they had a fairly easy schedule, all things considered. I mean, going up Raiders twice, the Commanders, the Cowboys, Giants, Jets, and the Bengals, like during that win streak. Not exactly the toughest of competition there, but I mean, still credit to them, like, beating the Texans as well, beating the Chiefs, and beating the Eagles and the Packers. That's still good, but it was like, it felt like they were punching a little bit above their weight, and that loss felt like it was confirming things, but to be fair, they did turn it around a little bit. They went back and beat the Chiefs in week 17, winning 20-13, though I think at that point it was Chris Oladokun starting. And then week 18 was against the Chargers. They won 19-3. So they finished the season with a 14-3 record, going into the playoffs with a lot of momentum. They would then play in the playoffs. They were actually the 1 seed, now that I remember. So yeah, got that first round bye, and they played the Bills at home in the divisional round and won in overtime 33-30. This is the one where Josh Allen had, I think, like 4 turnovers. He had the one really bad turnover right before halftime where he was trying to make a play and the ball got like punched out of his hands while he was like scrambling, and it set up a field goal right at halftime for the Broncos, and that was pretty key because the Broncos would win it, and obviously went to overtime and all that. And it was a really good game for both teams. The Bills were really sloppy. The Broncos were playing very well. They avenged their previous loss, and they're obviously had a ton of momentum going into the AFC Championship game against the Patriots, only for like 5 minutes after the game ended to find out that Bo Nix broke his ankle and would be out for the AFC Championship game, which was played in very, very snowy Denver. This is also Jarrett Stidham having to start because of that Bo Nix injury. And this was just a really sloppy game overall because of the weather. Both teams not exactly playing all that great. Obviously, Denver is missing their starting quarterback and having to start Jarrett Stidham. And the Patriots would win this one 10-7. Very, very disappointing end to the season there for the Broncos. Obviously, it's like I think if Bo Nix was playing, they would have beaten the Patriots, and then they would have got destroyed in the Super Bowl because the Seattle Seahawks were just way too good. So I think they probably would have played them better than the Patriots did, I think, but I don't think the Broncos were winning the Super Bowl. Even if they made it, I think it would have been a Seahawks victory nonetheless. But still, it was 14-3, got to the AFC Championship game. Nothing to be ashamed about there. Nice little season there for the Denver Broncos. And it's clear that this current core with Bo Nix, Sean Payton and whatnot, and the defense as a whole, it works. It's still needs some fine tuning, but overall it works. And I think Broncos fans are very happy about that. So in terms of stats and accolades and all that, Garrett Bowles at left tackle and Quinn Miners at right guard. And then also defensive tackle Zach Allen and Devin Key on special teams. He's a safety, but largely a special teamer. They all made first team All-Pros. And then Pat Surtain II and Talanoa Hufanga at cornerback and safety made second team All-Pro. Then Pro Bowlers, it was Cortland Sutton at wide receiver, Garrett Bowles, Quinn Miners, Zach Allen, Nick Bonito at linebacker, and Pat Surtain all made the Pro Bowl. Then in terms of statistics, the team offense was 14th in points scored and 10th in yards gained. Then their defense was 3rd in points allowed and 2nd in yards allowed. So they were, really good defense, very above average offense as well. Passing, it was Bo Nix all the way through the regular season, and then obviously the only one of two postseason games. Bo Nix had that 14-3 quarterback record. He actually had the most attempts out of anyone in the NFL, was 612, led the league there. Had a 63% completion percentage as well, which is not bad. Threw 25 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and 3,931 yards. So I feel like he might have wanted a little bit more just in terms of the volume he had in terms of throwing the ball for like a bit more production there, but still not bad. Did have 7 game-winning drives, most of any quarterback there. So that's pretty good. 5 fourth-quarter comebacks as well. So definitely performed in the clutch there, did Bo Nix. Running the ball, it was J.K. Dobbins in 10 games played, 9 started, had led the team with 772 yards and 4 touchdowns. R.J. Harvey had 540 yards and 7 touchdowns in 17 games played, but only 7 started. Bo Nix had 356 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jaleel McLaughlin had 187 yards and a touchdown. Marvin Mims also had a rushing touchdown at wide receiver. Interesting there. And outside of that, not much on the rushing front. Receiving yards, it was Cortland Sutton who led the team with 1,017 and 7 touchdowns. Troy Franklin was second on the team with 709 and 6 yards, or 709 yards and 6 touchdowns. Evan Ingram had 461 yards and a touchdown. Pat Bryant had 378 yards and a touchdown. RJ Harvey had 356 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns, which is interesting there. So 12 total touchdowns for RJ Harvey. Marvin Mims had 322 yards and a touchdown. Adam Troutman, 195 and 1. And Lil Jordan Humphrey also had a touchdown in the few games he played. And so on and so forth. Then on the defensive side, leading sacker was Nick Bonito with 14 sacks. Jonathan Cooper had 8. John Franklin Myers, 7.5. Zach Allen, 7. Justin Stranad, 4.5. Jaquan McMillan, Dondre Tillman, Malcolm Roach had 4. Ayoma Uwazurike had 3.5. DJ Jones, 3. Jonathan Ellis, 2.5. Jonah Ellis, not Jonathan Ellis. Jonah Ellis had 2.5. Talanoa Hufanga, 2. Then Riley Moss, Dre Greenlaw, and Alex Singleton had 1. And then Brandon Jones, Quandarius Robinson had half a sack. Combined tackles, it was Alex Singleton with 135, Talanoa Hufanga with 106, Riley Moss with 80. Solo tackles, it was Talanoa Hufanga with 67, Riley Moss 57, Alex Singleton 54. Interceptions, it was Jaquan McMillan and Dondre Tillman with 2. Then Riley Moss, Brandon Jones, Pat Surtain, Jahdae Barron, Justin Stranad, and Dre Greenlaw all had 1. Forced fumbles, it was Jaquan McMillan and Nick Bonito with 2. Then Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Alex Singleton, Devin Key, Jonah Ellis all had 1. Then also passes defended, which I never did before, but just because I'm looking at it now, Riley Moss actually led the league with 19 pass defense or passes defended. There at 19. I think I restated, but yeah, led the league there. So that is it for stats, I think, pretty sure. Then in terms of this offseason for free agency, they re-signed, the Broncos did. They were not very active in free agency. They've only brought in one outside free agent. That was, and I don't know if it's Tyson Anderson at safety from the Bengals on a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. They had a couple re-signings, and J.K. Dobbins on a 2-year, $16 million deal, and Alex Singleton on a 2-year, $15 million deal. They also brought back Lil Jordan Humphrey, Jaleel McLaughlin, Adam Prentice, and Matt Henningsen at wide receiver, running back, fullback, and defensive line. But that is it in terms of free agents. They did, however, trade for Jerry Jeudy. No, not Jerry Jeudy. Sorry. Jalen Waddle. There we go. It's another J name. Another J-named wide receiver taken in the first round out of Alabama in the early 2020s, because Jerry Jeudy actually was taken by the Broncos back in 2020. He was, I think he was like pick 10 or 11. Maybe he was like pick 13, but then Waddle was pick 7 in 2021. But anyway, they traded for him there. I believe did they give up a first round pick? I feel like they did. Let me check. Yes, they gave up a first and a third. And also a fourth for Jalen Waddle and the Dolphins' fourth round pick. So they actually traded up 19 spots in the fourth round, but also gave up their first and third for Jalen Waddle. I'm pretty sure they also extended Jalen Waddle a little bit, but I could be wrong there. They also traded away John Franklin Myers to the New York Jets they traded for John Franklin Myers. Sorry. And that was back in 2024? Really? Oh, wow. That was back in 2024. And that 6th round pick is now in this draft. And yeah, because John Franklin Myers is now on the Titans, actually. He signed there this offseason. But yeah, the Broncos do not have the 30th overall pick this time around in the draft. They do have the 62nd overall pick, because there's, I think, 6 teams with 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, which is kind of crazy. And yeah, so that was the big trade there, though, for the Broncos. They obviously lost John Franklin Myers on a 3-year, $63 million deal to the Titans. They cut Trey Greenlaw and lost him to the 49ers. And outside of that, not much, really. That's kind of how it is. I know they've like officially promoted Davis Webb to offensive coordinator. And outside of that, I think that's kind of it for the Broncos. So that is one of 4 teams done. Again, I will try and get through this quickly. And yeah, so that wraps that up for the Broncos. Let's go on to the Kansas City Chiefs season. As they are second, they did not have. Yeah, HIJK. Yeah. So Chiefs are up. They did not have a very good season this time around. A lot of injuries, a lot of underperformance. I think first time in a long time that the Chiefs missed the playoffs. And yeah, it was a little surprising there. So let's go find me those Chiefs. And so they came into the season. I mean, they're coming off that Super Bowl loss to the Eagles, getting destroyed by the Eagles. And they were coming in. They were pretty busy in free agency, it felt like, both in terms of additions and subtractions. The biggest contracts they gave out were to Jalen Moore, left tackle, bring him in over from the 49ers on a 2-year, $30 million deal. They also brought over cornerback Christian Fulton from the Chargers on a 2-year, $20 million deal. They re-signed Charles Omenihu, who's now in the Commanders. Brought over running back Elijah Mitchell. Brought over defensive lineman Jerry Tillery. Re-signed Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster. And they also brought over Gardner Minshew and Bailey Zappi. I don't think Bailey Zappi, he might have been a camp cut, I think. But they lost Tershawn Wharton to the Panthers and Justin Reed to the Saints. They also lost DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens, DJ Humphries to the Rams, Justin Watson to the Texans, Josh Uche to the Eagles, Samaje Perine to the Bengals, Mecole Hardman to the Packers, Carson Wentz to the Vikings, Derek Nundy to the Jets, Spencer Schrader at kicker to the Colts, and he unfortunately got injured like week 5, I'm pretty sure. So that was rough there. And yeah, so there's a lot, like nothing like super game breaking, I feel like, either way, but it was a lot of moves one way or another. In terms of the draft, they had the 31st overall pick, traded back one spot with the Eagles. The Eagles went up and took Jihad Campbell, a linebacker out of Alabama, I believe. The Chiefs instead got Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle out of Ohio State, who when he was on the field was good. It was just that he struggled to get on the field. I think he had like some personal injuries or personal issues as well. And he also dealt with injury. I forget exactly what it was. I'm trying to figure out what they got in return because it's not saying at the moment. The 164th overall pick. That's what it was. Hang on one second. It was there. Yeah, so they wound up trading that to the Steelers for something that's not. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Second round was Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle out of Tennessee. Not sure how much he played. Didn't play much because he tore his ACL in week 7. So that sucks for him. So hopefully he comes back in 2026 and does better. Outside of that, not too much. Their rookie class did not look all that good so far. Don't see too many names that like actually stick out to me. So, and I think that's actually kind of been the thing for the Chiefs over the past couple of years is that their drafts have not actually been that good. And so, yeah, that's another one that wasn't all that spectacular. I don't think they made any big trades really throughout the whole season. They went 0-3 in the preseason, lost to the Cardinals, Seahawks, and Bears. Week 1 was against the Chargers over in Brazil, over in Sao Paulo. And the Chargers actually win this one, 27-21. This is a fun game. I like watching that game. I think it was a Friday night. Tom Grassi was streaming it. He was partnered with the NFL officially, so he could actually stream the physical game, like the TV broadcast, which is cool. They did it with like a couple content creators. I think Mr. Beast was on there too or something like that. Anyway, so the Chiefs would lose that one there. They would then go 0-2, losing the narrow rematch to the Eagles 20-17. They turned it around, beating the Giants and the Ravens back-to-back. The Giants 22-9 and the Ravens 37-20. I think at that point, either Cooper Rush or Tyler Huntley was starting, I think, at that point. But I'm pretty sure that was a Cooper Rush start for the Ravens there. The Chiefs then lost to Jacksonville on Monday night in Jacksonville, 31-28. That was the Trevor Lawrence stumbling at the 2-yard line and getting back up to run in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown game. The Chiefs then beat the Lions, just destroying them 30-17. And everyone's like, all right, yeah, the Chiefs are back at this point. Then they shut out the Raiders 31-0. That was kind of how the Raiders season was going at that point. Then they crushed the Commanders, putting up, I think, 21 points in the second half, winning 28-7 there. So they were riding high at that point. You know, it was like, it wasn't a perfect season, and there were definitely some major flaws, but they were still at that point riding high. And then they lost to the Bills 28-21. Then they had their bye week in week 10. Then they lost to the Broncos 22-9. So they're 5-5 through 11 weeks, which was not the usual Chiefs deal. And let's see. So it was week 14, I think. Let me double check that it was week 14. No, it was week 15. Right, yeah. 14 games played, week 15 because they had the bye. Okay. So, yeah, week 15 was the week. So, anyway, coming out of the bye, or I guess no, that was... so, yeah, they came out of the bye, lost the Broncos. Week 12 was against the Colts. They would win in overtime, 23-20. Then the wheels kind of fell off. They would lose on Thanksgiving narrowly to the Cowboys, 31-28. Falling to 6-6. Then they lost the Texans 20-10. This was kind of when the Texans were showing that their defense was really good. So they would fall to 6-7 at that point. Then they would play the Chargers, losing 13-16. And this is the one where Pat Mahomes, late in the game, tears his ACL, is out for the season. And that was when it was kind of like, all right, yep, this kind of season's over at this point. Because they were on the outside looking in. I think at that point they couldn't win the division. And they had to sneak into a wild card spot, and it just wasn't going to happen. Gardner Minshew had to come in. I forget if it was in that game as well in week 15 or the week after, but I'm pretty sure it was that week 15 game. It might have been the next week. No, it was the next week. So it was against Tennessee, and Gardner Minshew went down with a season-ending injury in that game, forcing Chris Oladokun to come in. The Chiefs would lose that one 26-9. They then lost to the Broncos 20-13. Then finished out with a loss against the Raiders 14-12, finishing the season 6-11 with questions concerning Pat Mahomes' health going into this season. Obviously, he's going to be fine in the long run. It's just how healthy is he going to be at the start of the season? We don't know yet. Since Patrick Mahomes is really good when he plays, and he is what makes the Chiefs really good. So we'll see what happens there. In terms of accolades and statistics, because again, I'm trying to get through this fairly quickly. Creed Humphrey at center made first-team All-Pro. He also made the Pro Bowl, along with Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, and Trey Smith. In terms of the team offense and defense, their offense was 21st in points scored and 20th in yards gained. Their offense just hasn't looked great the past couple of years, though, with the new offense coordinator and Eric Bieniemy coming back. Matt Nagy has been, I forget if he got fired or just left, but Matt Nagy has been replaced once again by Eric Bieniemy. So we'll see how that goes for the Chiefs there. Their defense, however, was pretty solid this year. They were 6th in points allowed and 10th in yards allowed. In terms of passing, Mahomes, who played in 14 games, started all 14, was 6-8 in those games, threw for 3,587 yards, 22 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So definitely not his best overall season, but it would have been interesting to see how he did finishing out those last couple of games. Minshew played in 4 games, started only one, went 0-1 in those games, though I don't think he finished that start. Threw for a combined 37 net passing yards, no touchdowns to 1 interception. Chris Oladokun, who played in 3 games, started 0-2 in those games, threw for 235 yards, 1 touchdown to surprisingly no interceptions. I could have sworn he threw 1, but I guess not. But it's still not very good right there. Shane Buechel as well. I do not remember him playing. I guess he filled in at some point probably for Oladokun. Went 7-14 for 88 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions there. Say that was that. So combined, the Chiefs threw 3,639 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. On the ground, it was Kareem Hunt who led the team with 611 yards and 8 touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco, who was injured a bit early on in the season, rushed for 462 yards and a touchdown. Mahomes had 422 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. And outside of that, not much. Chiefs' rushing attack was really bad. That's why they addressed it this offseason. Receiving, it was Travis Kelce, who led the team with 851 yards and 5 touchdowns. Hollywood Brown had 587 yards, 5 touchdowns. Rashee Rice, who only played in 8 games because he was rehabbing that ACL tear last year, had, got the semi-hiccups or something like that. It's a little weird. But Rashee Rice had 571 yards and 5 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy had 532 yards and 1 touchdown. Tyquan Thornton had 438 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 1 or 2 games where it was kind of insane. It was weird. And anyway, Juju Smith-Schuster had 345 yards and touchdown, so on and so forth. And that does it for offensive stats. Now I'm actually looking at it. Defensively, it was Chris Jones who led the team in sacks with 7. George Karlaftis had 6. Charles Omenihu, 3.5. Chamari Connor, 2. Drew Tranquill, also 2. Jalen Watson, also 2. Leo Chenal, also 2. Actually, I didn't realize there were 4 guys who had 2 sacks there. Leo Chenal now on the Commanders, so I like that. Jerry Tillery and Ashton Gillott. I'm going to go with that. They both had 1.5 sacks. Nick Bolden, Michael Dana, Trent McDuffie, Noel Williams, and Omar Norman Lott all had 1 sack. Then Jaden Hicks had half a sack. Combined tackles, it was Nick Bolden who led the team with 154, Chamari Connor 117, Drew Tranquill 103. Solo tackles, it was Chamari Connor with 75, Nick Bolden 73, and Drew Tranquill 55. interceptions, it was Jalen Watson with 2. And then Shamari Connor, Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie, Leo Chenal, Christian, Roland Wallace, Ashton Gillott, Michael Dana, and Jack Cochrane all had 1 interception. Then finally, forced fumbles, it was Shamari Connor with 2. Then Nick Bolton, Trent McDuffie, Drew Tranquil, Jeffrey Bassa, and Ethan Downs all had 1 forced fumble. Now to go on to this season, there's been a decent bit of change here and all. In terms of the offseason, their additions, they were working. The Chiefs brought in a couple good ones. The big one was Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker on a 3-year, $43.05 million deal. I really like this signing for the Chiefs. Just immediate upgrade to a position of need at running back. So that's really good right there. Just from looking at this right now, home run signing. They also brought over Alohi Gilman at safety from the Ravens on a 3-year, $24 million deal. Don't mind that one at all either. Brought over Kyrios Tonga at defensive line over from the Patriots on a 3-year, $21 million deal. They re-signed Travis Kelce. I think it's said to be a 3-year deal, but is really a 1-year deal. Spot Track lists at a 1-year, $12 million deal. But Kelce's running it back for 1 more season. They re-signed Tyquan Thornton to a 2-year, $11 million deal, so they like that. Brought over Kyer Elam from the Titans on a 1-year deal. Other than that, not too much. They also brought over Amari DiMercato from the Cardinals, funnily enough. They lost Jalen Watson to the Rams on a 3-year, $51 million deal. They also traded away Trent McDuffie to the Rams for a first-round pick. What else was it, actually? Let me check the details of that Trent McDuffie trade, because I don't remember if it was just 1 or multiple first-round picks, but it was definitely it was a first-round, 5th, and 6th in 2026, and their 3rd in 2027. The Rams also gave McDuffie a massive extension. So yeah, there's that. The Chiefs also lost Brian Cook at safety to the Bengals. Leo Chenal, linebacker to the Commanders. Gardner Minshew over to the Cardinals. Hollywood Brown to the Eagles. Jawan Taylor, I think they cut him actually. He went over to the Falcons. Charles Omenihu also to the Commanders. They also lost Isaiah Pacheco to the Lions. So there's, they lost a good bit of talent there, but I do like the signings that they had. So they, at the moment, have, I believe, 2 picks now in the upcoming draft tomorrow. They have the 9th and 29th overall pick, as well as the 40th and 74th. So they're in an instant position to reload for 2026. So I'm sure the rest of the league is not happy about that. But yeah, there's that right there. They, again, have also made Eric Bieniemy the new offensive coordinator, bring him back there after he was there from 2018 to 2022 as the offensive coordinator. So it was basically after Matt Nagy left to go coach the Bears and not do very well there. Bieniemy came in, then he left to go take that same role at offensive coordinator in Washington in 2023, and he was terrible there. Then he was at UCLA in 2024, then went to the Chicago Bears in 2025 as the running backs coach, and he's now back with the Chiefs at OC. Always looks like Shaq's distant cousin, like Shaquille O'Neal's distant cousin, does Eric Bieniemy. I don't know why. He looks very similar to Shaquille O'Neal specifically. But anyway, other than that, not too much. Like Andy Reid's still there, Mahomes is still there, obviously Kelsey's still there. So we'll see what happens. My guess is the Chiefs, I think they might go wide receiver. Like they if Carnell Tate's there or Jordan Tyson, I think there's a decent chance they might go one of those 2 guys at pick 9. But maybe not. Who knows? We'll see what happens. They might go offensive line as well. We'll see. But I think that will wrap up the Chiefs. So let's do the Raiders next. Las Vegas Raiders season. And this was, as I had said, they're picking 1st overall. So this is very much a not good season for them. So the year before, they had fired Antonio Pierce. I think partly, I don't remember if it was after the season ended, but it was a mess there. They brought in Pete Carroll to man the team. He brought in, I think, Chip Kelly at offensive coordinator, and that was embarrassingly bad. And actually, it was listing interim offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach Craig Olson, not tight ends coach Craig Olson, different Craig Olson. Let's see, does it say? Yeah, okay, it was Chip Kelly. He was really bad. Like, he was apparently just calling plays that like didn't exist in the playbook sometimes. It was very strange. But anyway, their offseason was busy. Not as busy as this past offseason, but so they signed Jeremy Chin, bring him in over from the Commanders on a 2-year deal. Still have no idea why Adam Peters let Jeremy Chin go, but anyway. They re-signed Malcolm Kuntz on a 1-year, $11 million deal. The Chin deal was 2 years, about $16.25 million. They brought over Alex Kappa at guard from the Bengals on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Jermaine Pratt, also from the Bengals at linebacker on a 1-year deal. They brought over Amari Cooper from the Bills, and then I think Amari Cooper retired during training camp or something like that. They brought over Eric Stokes from the Packers, former first-round cornerback there on a 1-year deal, and I know he played pretty well. Like, he got an extension from the Raiders because he played well for them there. Brought over Landon Roberts at edge from the Steelers. Lonnie Johnson from the Panthers at cornerback. Raheem Mostert at running back from the Dolphins. Ian Thomas at tight end. Lucky Fotu at defensive line. Devin White at linebacker as well from the Texans. They also brought over Tyler Lockett, I think, for like a hot second, and he might have played like a game or two and then retired. Anyway, they lost a couple of guys. They lost like Trayvon Merring at safety to the Panthers, Nate Hobbs at cornerback to the Packers. So they actually swapped cornerbacks there. Robert Spillane to the Patriots, as well as Caleb Von Chason was on the Raiders for a year. I didn't realize that. But they lost Caleb Von Chason to the Patriots, and he went on to have a really nice season there, as well as the best name in football, Divine Diablo, on to the Falcons. Marcus Epps, Jermaine Pratt, Andrews Pete, Alexander Madison, Harrison Bryant, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ritter. I didn't realize Desmond Ritter. Yeah, Desmond Ritter, but he is mid. Actually, he's less than mid. He's really bad, but he was on the Raiders for a hot second. So yeah, there's not too many like major names, but still some names here and there. In terms of the draft, they had the 6th overall pick and went with Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, which was in theory a nice pick, though they did not use Jeanty very well, and their offensive line was so bad that it did not help at all. They also selected TCU wide receiver Jack Besh in the 2nd round, who did not get much playing time for some reason. Also, cornerback Darian Porter out of Iowa State in the 3rd. Other than that, not too many guys I recognize name-wise. Dante Thornton, maybe a little bit. Tennessee wide receiver. Did he do a little bit? Maybe. No, never mind. I might have been thinking of Tyquan Thornton. Never mind. Anyway, so yeah, that was interesting there. The Raiders, Patrick Graham was their defensive coordinator. He is now the DC for the Steelers. Chip Kelly was the offensive coordinator for not even a full season. This is also the first season for John Spytek at general manager, which again, I don't know how the rest of the draft pans out, but I do like the Jeanty pick. It was just the team was really bad this year. So they went 2 losses and a tie. They tied the Seahawks, then lost to the Niners and Cardinals in the preseason. They actually beat the Patriots in week 1, which funnily enough, so they got off to a 1-0 start. Then they lost to the Chargers, 20-9. Then they lost to the Commanders, 41-24. Then they lost to the Bears, 25-24. Then they lost to the Colts, 40-6. They then beat the Titans, actually, 20-10. Then they got shut up by the Chiefs, 31-0. So they're 2-5 going into the week 8 bye. And it was clear this is just not a good football team. And it somehow got even worse after that because Geno Smith had a bad season. It was just really bad. They lost the Jags in overtime, 30-29. Then their offense did not put up 20 points outside of one game after that. They lost 10-7 against the Broncos in week 10, 33-16 to the Cowboys in week 11, 24-10 loss to the Browns in week 12, lost 31-14 to the Chargers in week 13, lost 24-17 to the Broncos in week 14, got shut out 31-0 against the Eagles in week 15, actually scored 20 points, but they still lost 23-21 to the Texans in week 16, then lost to the Giants 34-10 in week 17. That secured them the first overall pick. So that was including the one before their bye week. That was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 game losing streak. They're 2-4 before that, then lost 10 straight. But they actually, again, won their final one. Didn't really matter in the end, though. But won their final one 14-12 over the Chiefs, finishing with a record of 3-14 and the number 1 overall pick. So they only put up 20 or more points in 6 of 6 of their 17 games, which is not a good thing to do. They did not have anyone make any all-pro teams. Their Pro Bowlers were Brock Bowers and Max Crosby. I know Bowers, he dealt with some injuries this season. He was out for a lot of the early chunk, but still made the Pro Bowl. And yeah, it was not good. Statistics-wise, their league offense ranked dead last in both points and yards. Their defense was 25th in points and actually 14th in yards, interestingly enough. But yeah, there's the just awful offense that did nothing all season pretty much. Geno Smith played 15 games, started 15, 2-13 in those games, threw for 3,025 yards, 19 touchdowns to a league-leading 17 interceptions, which actually a little surprising that 17 led the league in interceptions this season. It's like kind of went down a little bit. He was also the most sacked quarterback in the league at 55, so that certainly did not help at all. Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl winning quarterback Kenny Pickett, played in 6 games, started 2, went 1-1 in those starts. I think those are the last 2 games of the season. Threw for 188 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Aiden O'Connell also made an appearance, played in 1 game, did not start it. Went 10 of 22 for 102 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. On the ground, it was Ashton Jeanty who led the team with just 266 rushing. Oh, no, it's attempts. Never mind. I was going to say that's a little not enough. It's actually 975 rushing yards. That looks a lot better. He had 5 touchdowns. So after a really rough start, given that Chip Kelly didn't want to use him and the offensive line was really bad, nice bounce back season or not even bounce back, but like nice recovery for Ashton Jeanty to put up a nice rookie season there. Next closest was Geno Smith at 109 yards, no touchdowns. Raheem Mostert was third on the team with 104 yards and no touchdowns. Ashton Jeanty was, in fact, the only player on the team to score a rushing touchdown, and it was just those 5. So, yeah, that was not good. Receiving-wise, it was Trey Tucker, who led the team with 609 yards and 5 touchdowns. Pretty sure he got like at least 150 of those against the Commanders in week 3. Brock Bowers was second on the team in 12 games played, 8 started at 680 yards and 7 touchdowns. Jacoby Myers, who was traded halfway through the season, 352 yards, no touchdowns. Ashton Jeanty, 346 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns receiving. Michael Mayer had 328 yards and a touchdown. And just got an information note on Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel tells ESPN's Mike Rice he will not be with Patriots for NFL Draft Day 3. Will seek counseling for the whole probably cheating on his wife with Diana Rossini, the ESPN reporter that has been in the news a lot lately for, the exact reasons you think. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, that does it for the offensive stats. There's not much there. Defensively, it was Max Crosby, no surprise, leading the team with sacks with 10. Malcolm Kuntz was second on the team with 4.5. Jonah Laulu with 4, as well as Tyree Wilson and Tonka Hemingway also with 4. Charles Snowden with 3. Devin White 2.5. Adam Butler, Jeremy Chin, Jamal Adams. I forgot Jamal Adams on the Raiders. And then Lucky Fotu all had 1. Combined tackles, it was Devin White with 174, Jeremy Chin 112, or not 112, 114. Isaiah Polamau had 92. Solo tackles, it was those top 3 guys at 95, 63, and 58. Interceptions, it was Q Blue Kelly with 3, Isaiah Polamau with 2, Devin White, Max Crosby, and Charles Snowden with 1. And then forced fumbles, it was Max Crosby, Jeremy Chin, and Tyree Wilson with 2. And then Devin White, Jamal Adams, Thomas Booker, and Malcolm Kuntz with 1. So that does it for stats. Then in terms of the offseason for the Raiders this time around, they were very busy in terms of signings. They didn't lose much either. They only lost Kenny Pickett, Stone Forsythe, Lonnie Johnson, and Danny Holmes. The largest contract given out to any of those guys was Kenny Pickett at a 1-year, $4 million deal by the Panthers. Signing-wise, it was a lot. Like, a lot. It's the signing is a little booed up. So they brought over Kirk Cousins. It is like technically a 5-year, $172 million deal, but it's like not really, because I think they're like, it's like the rest of it is not guaranteed, because I think it's like dead money that the Falcons are taking on or something like that. It's really just a 1-year deal for Kirk to come in and really mentor Fernando Mendoza, and maybe even start for most of the season and just let Mendoza learn behind him. But yeah, they brought over Kirk Cousins. The actual big signing was Tyler Linderbaum on a 3-year, $81 million deal at center. So $27 million a year for the center. I think next closest is at like $18 million a year. It's absolutely nuts. They also brought over Kwity Paye on a 3-year, $48 million deal. Quay Walker on a 3-year, $40.5 million deal. Nakobe Dean on a 3-year, $36.03 million deal. Also, Jalen Naylor at a 3-year, $35.03 million deal. Eric Stokes, they re-signed him to a 3-year, $30 million deal. Re-signed Malcolm Kuntz on a 1-year, $11 million deal. So they were just throwing money all over the place at the moment. Because, again, the Raiders had a ton of cap space to work with, and they were just, you get some money, everybody gets some money. They cut Alex Kappa. I guess they still have Geno Smith. Oh, no, I think they traded Geno. Yeah, they traded him back to the Jets for like a 6th-round pick, pretty much. But yeah, it was a lot. They also brought over Connor Hayward and Ian Thomas, or brought back Ian Thomas. So there was that there, both guys at tight end. There's a lot of money being thrown around by the Raiders there. In terms of the draft, they are obviously picking 1st overall. They also have the 36th overall pick and the 67th overall pick, 3 4th-round picks as well. So the Raiders have a lot to work with here, with now Clint Kubiak as the new head coach, since they fired Pete Carroll after 1 season. So it's Clint Kubiak. Offensive coordinator is Andrew Janico, who was the quarterback coach for the Seahawks. So he comes over with Clint Kubiak there. They brought over Rob Leonard, or promoted Rob Leonard, actually, who was the defensive line and run game coordinator in 2025. He's now the defensive coordinator there for the Raiders. So all new coaching staff pretty much for the Raiders at that point. And new kind of everything pretty much. And obviously they're going to pick Fernando Mendoza, but outside of that, we'll see what happens. So yeah, should be interesting. They almost had 2 first-round picks. They were going to trade away Max Crosby to the Ravens. Sorry, the other RA team. They're almost going to. Well, the trade was in place for Max Crosby to the Ravens for a 2026 and 2027 first-round pick, but then the Ravens failed Max Crosby's physical, rescinded the trade. It was a whole big deal. I talked about it, I'm sure, in one of the episodes most recent, or like that happened around free agency. It might have just been my free agency recap video or episode, probably what that was. So yeah, that's what happened there. So instead they still have Max Crosby, and they only have 1 first-round pick in the next 2 drafts. But again, they keep Max Crosby, which is nice. But yeah, that should do it there for the Raiders. So now we go to the Chargers to end off everything here for the recaps, and probably end off. Well, I'll probably do an episode on the draft. But after that, I'm definitely going to take a break from football on the podcast and focus a lot more on baseball and non-sports stuff. But for now, though, we shall talk about the LAC Chargers. The LAC. So the Chargers were coming off of an 11-6 season where they lost in the playoffs to someone. Who did they lose to? Was it the Bills? I don't remember. They lost to the Texans. That's what it was. A 32-12 loss to the Texans back in the previous season. So Herbert still hadn't won a playoff game at this point. The F-man allegations were in full swing, and unfortunately for them, it did not get all that much better. They also, one of the big guys they lost in free agency was Joey Bosa. He went over to the Bills. They also lost Josh Palmer, Christian Fulton, Poona Ford, J.K. Dobbins, Stone Smart. I just love that name. But yeah, the Joey Bosa one I know stung for them because he'd been on the team since I think 2016, pretty sure. They I know they did bring back Keenan Allen at some point. I forget if it was just during the offseason, but it was they brought over Mekhi Becton at guard from the Eagles, who wound up having a really bad season. After he had a bounce back season in 2024 with the Eagles, and then had a really bad season with the Chargers here in 2025. Brought over Dante Jackson from the Steelers on a 2-year deal. Re-signed Bradley Bozeman, who's now retired. Bradley Bozeman also did not have a good season there. Interior offensive line had a really bad go of things. A lot of re-signings, so like Troy Dye at linebacker, T.R. Tart, defensive line, Denzel Perriman, Taylor Heineke, Tony Jefferson, Jalen Reagor. They also brought over Najee Harris at running back, though he, I think, tore his Achilles in like week 3. So that was rough there. They also brought back Mike Williams for a hot moment, and then he retired, I think, during the offseason, I'm pretty sure. They brought over Benjamin St. Juste from the Commanders. He was not very good. I think he had a better season in LA than he was having in Washington, but not good enough to get re-signed, I think. I think St. Jude's is now in the Packers, I'm pretty sure. And they also brought over Trey Lance. And yeah, that was that there. I don't think I really missed anything else. Don't think there were any coaching changes either. They brought over, so Greg Roman was the offense coordinator, was still there. He's since been let go. He's elsewhere. So they actually new coordinator for 2026. But anyway, the draft, they had the 22nd overall pick, and they picked UNC running back Omari Hampton. Then in the second round, they picked Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris at 55. And outside of that, they did pick Oronde Gadsden in the second out of Syracuse at tight end in the 5th round. He had a nice couple games there, I remember. But outside of that, it was just trying to run back a little bit. So they were in the Hall of Fame game against the Lions. They won that one 34-7. So they played in 4 preseason games. They went 2-2, beating the Lions, Saints, then losing to the Rams and 49ers. Then the regular season got off to a really nice start for them as they played 3 straight divisional games, won all 3. They would beat the Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos. 27-21, then 20-9, then 23-20. They then lost the Giants, surprisingly enough, 21-18. Still really not sure how this happened, but it is what it is. They then lost to the Commanders 27-10. This was like the best game the Commanders played all season. So they were 3-2 at this point. They then got the win back against the Dolphins, winning 29-27. They then lost to the Colts 38-24. Then they won a nice little win streak where they beat the Vikings 37-10. They beat the Titans 27-20, and then the Steelers 25-10. And once again, I'm just speeding through this because we're right near the end, and I've recapped basically all these games at this point in depth in most of the other episodes. And you can also check out, my actual like week to week recaps of when these games happened and when I recorded right after. You can go check those out as well. They then lost to the Jaguars 35-6, and that was kind of crazy. I just don't remember this game too much, but that was something. They had their bye in week 12. So they were 7-4 going into their bye. They then came out of their bye and had a nice stretch. So they beat the Raiders 31-14. Then they beat the Eagles in overtime 22-19. They beat the Chiefs 16-13. Then the Cowboys 34-17 to go 11-4. Then they lost the last 2, losing the Texans 20-16 and then the Broncos 19-3. Finishing the season 11-6, but still having a very nice season overall. They would advance to the playoffs, to the wild card round, play the Patriots, then put up an absolute stinker against the Patriots, losing 16-3. Their defense played well, or their offense that was just getting absolutely demolished by the Patriots defense in this one. And once again, Justin Herbert still without a playoff win. And it's like, I like Justin Herbert, but it's definitely like, you got to start asking some questions here and there because they just completely collapse when you get to the playoffs. It's rough. It's definitely rough. So in terms of individual, the accolades and statistics and all that, Derwin James at safety and Delshon Phillips at special teams both made second team All-Pros. Pro Bowlers, it was Joe Alt, Cameron Dicker, Justin Herbert. I'm still not. How did Joe Alt make the Pro Bowl? He only played in like 7 games and then got injured. But yeah, Herbert, Derwin James, and Tuli Tuipulotu all made the Pro Bowl. Rashawn Slater, their other offensive tackle, who's really good, was out for the entire season. He got injured during training camp, or the preseason, one of the two, but he did not play a single game for them this season. Then Joe Alt went down with an injury. I feel like kind of early on, but not early on enough to still know. How in the world did he make a Pro Bowl in 2025? So he played. So he missed 3 games after week 4. Started 8-9. Was out after that. And yeah, so he played in like 5 games. How did he make the Pro Bowl with playing like? Okay, I'm actually like, how many games did Joe Alt play in 2025? Joe Alt 2025 game log. Because I like Joe Alt. He's really good. But, like, you shouldn't be able to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. He played in 6 games in 2025. How do you make the Pro Bowl in 6 games? I do not understand that. Anyway. Whatever. The Pro Bowl is just voters. I don't know what was going on in the Pro Bowl this year. Stur Sanders made a Pro Bowl, and I still have no idea how. Anyway, team offense was 20th in points and 12th in yards. Defense was 9th in points and 5th in yards. The defense was playing well this season. Passing wise, it was Herbert, who played in 16 games. I feel like they probably, I want to say they benched him for the final game just to not risk him. Goes 11-5 in those games. 3,727 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Trey Lance started the one game, lost that game. 226 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception in 4 games played, 1 game started. Rushing, it was Kamani Vidal who actually led the team because he was the healthiest, as Omari Hampton was out for a good chunk of the middle of the season with an injury. He got injured in that Washington game, was out for a lot of it. So Kamani Vidal had 643 yards and 3 touchdowns. Omari Hampton, who just played 9 games, had 545 yards, 4 touchdowns. Herbert had 498 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jarrett Patterson, former Commander, 159 yards and a touchdown. Najee Harris, who only played in those 3 games, had 61 yards and no touchdowns, 3 first downs. That's where I got the 3 from. And yeah, that was that. Receiving, it was Ladd McConkey, who led the team with 789 yards and 6 touchdowns, though he had a big step back production-wise compared to last year. Pretty similar to Brian Thomas Jr. in terms of like production-wise. Keenan Allen was second on the team with 777 yards and 4 touchdowns. Quentin Johnson, who had a very nice bounce-back season compared to his first couple. He had a really good start to the season and then kind of fell off a little bit after that, but it was good to see that like he wasn't a complete and total bust. He was definitely getting better. He had 735 yards and 8 touchdowns, and dealt with an injury here, like an injury too here and there. Oronde Gadsden had 664 yards, 3 touchdowns as a rookie tight end, so that was pretty good. Not gonna lie. Trey Harris had 324 yards and a touchdown. Omari Hampton had 192 yards and a touchdown. Kamani Vidal 136 yards and a touchdown. So on and so forth. Defensively, where did my defensive stats go? There they are. It was Tuli Tuipulotu, who led the team with 13 sacks. Odafe Owe, who was they traded for, I believe, played in 12 games for them. But hang on, when did they trade for Odafe Owe? Oweh, who's now on the Commanders. They traded for him because I feel like it was during the season. It was October 7th. Oweh and a 2027 7th round pick were sent to the Chargers in exchange for Alohi Gilman and a 2026 5th round pick. So Alohi Gilman was. I'm surprised the Ravens didn't keep him since they gave up Oweh, and Oweh went on to have 7.5 sacks with the Chargers in 12 games played. Justin Eboigbe. I'll go with Eboigbe. It's Eboigbe. That's how you spell it. Had 6 sacks. Khalil Mack 5.5. Diane Henley 3.5. Derwin James 2. Bud Dupree also 2. Deshaun Hand 1.5. Troy Dye, Jamari Caldwell, and Delshon Phillips 1. And then Caleb Murphy and Otito Ogbonia had a half sack. Combined tackles, it was Diane Henley with 103, Derwin James 94, Troy Dye 58. Solo tackles, it was Diane Henley 54, Derwin James 50, and Tony Jefferson 37. Actually, 3 guys with 37. Tareeb Still and Cam Hart also 37 solo tackles. Interceptions, it was Tony Jefferson and Dante Jackson both with 4, Derwin James 3, Ryan Henley and RJ Mickens 2, then Cam Hart, Elijah Molden, Benjamin St. Juste, and Deshaun Hand with 1. Then finally, forced fumbles. There it is. Khalil Mack with 4. Tuli Pelotu with 2. Then Derwin James, Troy Dye, Tierra Tart, and Jamari Caldwell with 1. Now, finally, for free agency, that's what it's called. They lost a couple of guys, mainly Odafe Oweh to the Commanders on a 4-year, $96 million deal. They also lost Zion Johnson at guard to the Browns. Benjamin St. Juste, it was the Packers. Deshaun Hand to the Falcons. Otito Ogbonia to the Cowboys. Jamari Salyer to the Dolphins. Tyler Conklin to the Lions. Foster Sorrell to the Commanders. And Austin Deculus to the Titans. They did, however, sign over from the Commanders Tyler Biotish at center on a 3-year, $30 million deal. They also brought over Charlie Kolar and Keaton Mitchell from the Ravens. I thought they brought over Patrick Ricard as well, or where did Patrick Ricard go to? I could have sworn it was to the Chargers, but I guess not. Hang on one sec. Patrick Ricard. He is on. Oh no, he's on the Giants. Never mind. Yeah, he went with Harbaugh. It was Alec Ingold. That's who it was. That was the fullback. But yeah, so Charlie Kolar at tight end and Keaton Mitchell running back from the Ravens. Cole Strange at guard over from the Dolphins. Trey Pipkins they re-signed at tackle. Delshon Phillips they also re-signed. A lot of re-signings. Denzel Perryman, Trey Lance, Deanne Leonard, Josh Harris, and Tony Jefferson they all re-signed. They also brought over Dalvin Tomlinson from the Cardinals. Not too many like super big moves, but I don't mind too many of those moves either. I think is Khalil Mack, did he retire? I forget. Or is he still under contract? Khalil Mack, okay, I think he's still listed as under contract at the moment. 1 year, $18 million. Did I just miss that when I was going through that? Hang on. No, it's just not listed for some reason. I don't really know why. Anyway, in terms of the draft and everything else, let me actually do coordinator-wise. So they replaced Greg Roman with Mike McDaniel, former Dolphins head coach. Major upgrade right there, not going to lie. Then their defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, left to go be the head coach of the Dolphins, or not the Dolphins. That was Mike McDaniel, who was just the head coach. So Minter left to go be the head coach now of the Ravens. And so they brought over Chris O'Leary, who was most recently the Western Michigan defensive coordinator, was the safeties coach for the Chargers back in 2024. So he has some experience in LA before that. So I guess is the first time NFL defensive coordinator. And so there's that there. And Mike McDaniel, not the first time he's, called plays and whatnot, was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers back in 2021, called plays, pretty sure at least, for the Dolphins in his time there as head coach. But yeah, I really like that hire there. The draft, they are picking 22nd overall. It's actually same exact spot as last time. 55th pick and 86th pick as well. So overall, Chargers, not a bad season, but the getting bounced first round in the playoff again sucks a lot. So they gotta figure out a way to string things together. Obviously, getting back both Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater in theory will be good for them, but we shall see what happens. So that will do it for this episode and for this 8-part series on recapping the divisions. I hope you enjoyed, because it was fun doing this. Nice stroll down memory lane at some points. So next episode will be this Saturday, hopefully in theory, and I will figure out something to talk about on Saturday. I'm not sure what yet, but I might just talk movies and TV of some kind, just kind of ramble on for a little bit. We'll see what happens. Then next Tuesday, it'll kind of go back to the usual schedule of Tuesdays. Well, I say Tuesdays. I record them on Tuesday nights very late at night and basically post them on Wednesdays. But I think of it as the Tuesday episode. That will be the baseball recaps, and then Saturdays will be the usual non-sports related episode. I will probably also have an episode next week, maybe on, I don't know, maybe it might, I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'll have an episode next week on the NFL draft, because obviously I want to get an episode out recapping parts at least of the entire NFL draft. I might just hit the highlights, but we'll see what happens there. Other than that, though, outside of that episode, football is going to be on the back burner for a little bit as we enter the dead zone, essentially, between now and really when training camp starts in July. But that will obviously not be for a little while. So yeah, football will, unless I want to do a historical thing or something like that, football will be off the table for a bit, and it will be baseball and other stuff moving forward for the summer. But that is for later. For now, though, that is all. Thank you very much for listening.